Attention all stations, stand by for an urgent tsunami warning for the Big Island and the islands of Maui, Lanai, and Oahu. This warning is based on a 7.5 magnitude earthquake near Kailua Kona.
Could it really happen? Could a giant wave really menace the beaches of Hawaii? There is something out there, and it threatens coastlines around the world. It's one of nature's least understood forces, tsunami. We often see hurricanes and typhoons that churn up higher than normal tides. They can flood low-lying coastal communities. But as dangerous as these storm surges can be, they are not the worst of all possible waves. The real monsters are tsunamis, freak waves usually produced by undersea disturbances like earthquakes. They can race across entire oceans and swallow cities whole. And they can leave tens of thousands dead. Throughout history, tsunamis have generated legendary disasters, ravaging the shores of nearly every ocean and sea. Without warning and without mercy, killer waves have struck again and again. And tsunamis are as mysterious as they are deadly, because so few have ever been observed by scientists. This extraordinary footage was shot in 1952 in the Kuril Islands off Russia's northern Pacific coast. A typical tsunami, it moved inland like a rising tide, but with far greater speed and force. Fortunately, it caused only minor damage here and no deaths. But tsunamis can be catastrophic. In the last century alone, more than 50,000 people have been killed by tsunamis. Most had little or no warning. Few were even aware of the danger. But for the people of the Pacific Rim, deadly tsunamis are not rare events. They live in the most seismically active part of the planet, an area crisscrossed by earthquake zones and dotted with volcanoes. So it's not surprising that the vast majority of the world's tsunamis occur here. In the middle of the Pacific, the Hawaiian Islands lie isolated and exposed. Its people are certainly no strangers to tsunamis, but some of them are acutely aware of the risk. Dr. Walter Dudley is Director of Marine Science at the University of Hawaii at Hilo and a leading expert on tsunamis.
I have a little on-site safety briefing.
Today he's taking one of his classes on a snorkeling field trip. But first, a few words of caution.
Okay guys, everybody listen up. We are only about 30 miles from the epicenter of two of the largest earthquakes that have ever struck this island. In both cases, they generated large destructive tsunamis. The waves took about 10 minutes to get here and were 10 to 15 feet high. So if you're out there on the reef and you feel a big earthquake, drop your gear, get out of the water and move ashore as quickly as possible. Okay, let's have a good lab. They are among the most catastrophic of all natural phenomenon. Unlike things like hurricane, there are no warning signs. The weather doesn't get bad. You don't feel the earth shake. It can be just a beautiful day, and then all of a sudden, the ocean can come up and come ashore 30 feet high. In the Hawaiian Islands, we've recorded tsunami wave heights as great as 56 feet on this island from the 1946 Aleutian tsunami. In prehistoric times, wave heights may have reached over 1,000 feet. Hilo has been struck by tsunamis as long as there's been a Hilo, but it was really in 1946 when there was a built-up downtown Hilo that we had a very, very large tsunami.
1946. After 4 years of war, Hawaiians can relax. At last, their island paradise is safe from attack. But more than 2,000 miles away, a new threat emerges from the sea. On April 1st, at around 12:30 in the morning, an undersea earthquake off the coast of Alaska generates a huge tsunami. Within minutes, it will make its first landfall on the Aleutian island of Unimak, 90 miles from the epicenter. Inside the island's Scotch Cap lighthouse, the men feel the tremor, but they have no idea what's heading their way. When the wave slams into their island, it's more than 100 feet high. After it passes, the Scotch Cap lighthouse has disappeared, and so has its crew. The tsunami continues racing south toward Hawaii at over 400 miles per hour. And just as in Alaska, no one here suspects a thing. Its first impact in the islands is deceptive. Some waves are as small as 2 or 3 feet, barely hinting at the tsunami's awesome power. By the time it arrives at Coconut Island in Hilo Bay, the tsunami has begun to swell to monstrous proportions. Its waves wash over the island, easily overtopping the 30-foot palm trees. Lining Hilo Bay were dozens of homes. Kapua Hewer's family lived on a bluff high above the bay.
My family ventured as close as it could to the edge of the slough when we saw this mammoth wave come in. It's 32 feet from here down to the ocean. We had to step back because where we were standing, all of a sudden it was ocean.
In the city of Hilo, residents panic when the first waves hit, fleeing for their lives. Many try in vain to outrun the tsunami.
We heard this horrible clash in Hilo, and we knew that the buildings on the ocean side were being knocked down. There was turmoil all day long. The whole town was awash with water and hurt people and lost people. We did see people in the ocean struggling, dogs trying to swim ashore. We saw that, but you couldn't do anything about it. The force of the water was so great, you couldn't venture into it. You had no chance. You felt very helpless and wondered, was anybody out there that you knew?
One photographer watches in horror as a wave overtakes a dock worker trapped on a pier. In the next frame, taken after the wave has passed, the worker is nowhere to be seen, swept away like so many others.
I had gotten up, gone downstairs to wash up.
Larry Nakagawa was 14 when the wave struck his home in Hilo.
And as I was washing my face and brushing my teeth, I heard the strange sound of gravel being thrown on the pavement. So my brother came out and said, "It looks like we're having a tidal wave, so we better get on the tree." So he hoisted me up, and then my father was hoisted. He and my father were on the same branch, and because of the way the branch was, he had to hold my father around to grab hold of the trunk. And I think when the wave came, he felt that if he hung on to my father, the force of the wave would push him, and if he hung on, he would take my father in. So he let go, and he went with the wave.
It was strict horror to go into the mortuaries. When they found somebody, identified somebody, all the bodies were covered. They put a tag on the toe, but they were covered with a blanket. And when you pull back the blanket to see if you recognize them, the horror on their death and stroke was terrible when they died. They were frightened. Eyes open, mouth agape. and just a terror look face on them. It was very unpleasant to look at.
"25 miles northwest of Hilo, the little